Today we'll be doing rifle classification for 21st Ops. This will take place in ARMA Reforger, but everything in this op, or most everything in this video, will apply to things in Armor 3. It's going to be kept very general, but we'll be mostly talking about Reforger because that's our mainstay right now. Duck here has volunteered to go through rifle classification with us. It's an old 21st term, but it's basically the class is everything you need to function as a basic rifleman. When you play in one of our ops, just assuming that you're US and not like Soviet or anything, most of this applies to them as well. You will be issued an M16 or M4, M4A1 or something along the lines of that. Basically, what we have in our hands right now. There are two things you need to note about this. So, Duck, if you'll shoulder your weapon by double tap control, and if you don't look at me, but if you aim down the sights, do you know how to sight in, adjusting elevation?
Page up, page down.
Very good. So normally this is set at a 300, like kind of battle zero, and you're going to keep it on that for about 99% of the time. But if you know like you're going to be engaging people that are really close, or you're going to actively be engaging people at a farther distance, say like 600 degrees, and you need to sit there and volume fire an enemy, you can sight it in. But for the most part, don't really touch it. Now the other important thing you're going to need to know about this is that it has two fire modes. And the first one is semi, and the second is full auto. And this particular one has a burst, but it still is an automatic mode.
I thought it didn't have an automatic.
It does. The burst is a form of automatic. And for people on PC, I don't know the Xbox controls, but by pressing V Victor, you can cycle in between those two fire modes. For 90% of the time, you want to keep it on semi. You don't want to keep it on full auto because you're just wasting ammo and you're going all over the place and you're not hitting what you're aiming at. There is a reason for it though, and one reason is if you're really close, then there's a reason to use it, and the other reason is suppression, and we'll go into that later. Do you have any questions about anything so far?
None.
Okay, so since this is Reforger, we don't have an in-depth medical system, and we don't have a lot of the ACE options and whatnot, but we do have a fairly basic and somewhat fleshed out medical system. So if you press tab to go into your inventory, we'll see that we have three main medical items, and this is pretty much what your basic rifleman should be carrying. He'll have a morphine injector, a tourniquet, and two bandages. The main bandage, while it does heal everywhere, it takes about 7 seconds to put on, and it'll stop the bleeding. The tourniquet, however, takes half the time to put on, and you could take it off and reuse it. But it only goes on your limbs, so that's important to know. Not your head or your torso, but legs and arms. And the morphine is used to help you speed up the recovery process. There are some other medical items, but we won't go into them because that's a medic's role. This is a rifleman class. So when in doubt, use a bandage. But if you have it in your mind, put a tourniquet on, or try to put a tourniquet on, because it can save you some bandages down the line. And it takes less time to get you in the fight quicker. And why that's important is the most important part about medical in this game isn't what bandages and stuff you're using. It's when you're doing it. If you're in a firefight and you just get a little scratch, should you stop, sit down, and put a big bandage or tourniquet or anything on and take your gun out the fight? Obvious answer is no. So you could always press tab and look in your it'll pop up medical icons along the right here, and it'll tell you if it's a mild bleeding, just leave it. Get it later. If it's a severe bleeding,
provide a visualization.
No, not right now. Not right now. But that's the idea. You want to keep your gun in the fight as long as you can. If you press G, you'll bring up your radio menu. You also have a physical radio on your body. The important part is to try not to use it, right? But if you press T, you go to voice chat in game. And as you see, hey Duck, look at me. You can hear me. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Talk to me in game.
Hello.
See, you can hear someone pretty far away. And the important part about radio is don't say it on the radio if you can say it in person. That's a big thing. That's really important. Don't say it on the radio if you can say it in person. And as a basic rifleman, you're typically not going to be using a radio if you're even issued a radio. So if you have the privilege to listen, just do that and only use it to call out important things like, hey, there's a tank coming, or like there's 50 guys, Otherwise, say like team lead, there's 3 guys that way. And we'll go out into call outs in a minute, but does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay, there's 2 channels. There's a platoon channel in this game that everyone on your team can hear, and there's an individual channel which you can cycle through with scroll wheel, that just whatever that team is set on, or really anybody can set on these channels. Okay, so two things. We have two handheld throwables in this game. We have an M67 frag grenade, very simple to use. You'll press was it 4? Pull it out. Don't throw it. But when you do throw it, please, please, please make sure you say that you're actually throwing a grenade. Don't just throw a grenade and not tell anyone, right?
It, like, frag out.
Yeah, or I'm throwing a grenade, someone cover me or something. Because often, what we used to do back in the day was we wouldn't give Riflemen a grenade because we kept getting team killed by them, and it was the big shit show. And often you see now is that somebody will start pulling it out to throw it, and they won't have anyone watching them, and they'll just get shot. Because in this game, you have to actually take it out and lower your weapon to throw a grenade. The second throwable we have is a smoke grenade. Now, I'm telling you right now, do not use this. As a rifleman, do not throw a smoke, because you'll just piss off all the leaders, because all you're doing is obstructing y'all's view, because you can't throw it. You can only throw it so far. It's not like a launch GL smoke or something. You're just making the battle more difficult for you. Let your leaders use it, all right? So what's the first thing you do when you get in game as a rifleman? You're going to drop your smoke grenades. Very good. Questions so far?
None.
Okay, so if you press K, kilo, you'll bring up a compass. And if you right-click once, you'll bring it up to your face. So, as a basic rifleman, you won't be doing much land navigation, but you will have times where you need to specifically call out something, or you need to go a certain direction. For example, a team leader or squad leader will be like, Rifleman, go bearing 230. Can you go face 230 for me? There you go. So, what's important to note is you're looking at these internal red numbers. The ones on the outside are something different. Don't worry about the black numbers. Okay? And the Soviet compass works the same. It's got 360 degrees. 360 is north, 90 is east, 180 south, and 270 is west. But this is a lot different than Armor 3, where you actually have to pull this compass out and lower your weapon, and it takes a minute. Well, not a minute, but it takes a few seconds to actually do it. So in a firefight, you don't want to be, hey, look, let me fumble with my compass trying to give an accurate call out on this guy, because then if someone needs to respond to that call out, they have to pull out their compass and figure out where it is too. So it's best to understand where you're facing and give call outs based upon that. Give me a call out for that tent. And you're trying to give a very long call out, as much information as you can.
Alright, 3 men in the tent bearing 340.
Okay, that was not bad. What you can do is tent surrounded by reeds, or tent, you didn't really give a distance. You'd say close or far. And the idea is you don't have to say like, oh, they're 343 feet away. No, you'd say like, just kind of keep it short. Like, they're closer, they're farther, right? Now, let's say we're in combat. You go put the compass away to give a call out. You say, guys in tent front, right?
Yeah.
Make sense? Close, far. Short, simple call outs. What a good team lead will do, or squad lead, is when you approach an objective, let's say the tent is the objective, we'll say, all right, we're facing north. That way everyone knows that we're facing north, and I said call outs like, hey, there's guys coming east. Which way would you look? Very good. You'd look east. Now everyone knows. We're all on the same page, right? Because if people keep saying front and right and left, you start getting turned around, and it gets really confusing. But the compass directions never change. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so the takeaway from this is, in combat, short, simple callouts, they don't have to be that verbose. When you're out of combat and you're trying to relay information to your squad lead or something, be very specific. Say, there's guy, second floor of red house with white trim, far away, 300 yards. Close, dumpster, green dumpster, right side of building. One important thing is never say there's a guy over there, because no one knows where that is. And if you say, like, you're in a forest and you say, hey, there's a guy behind that tree, I'm just going to shoot you. Okay? This is the Marine Rifle Squad. This is what we'll be talking about, and this is what we base most of our stuff off of. So if you come here, this is a typical standard Marine Rifle Squad. This is kind of early 2000s, early 2010s, but this is what we like to base it off of. So first thing is, you'll have a squad lead. He will lead 2 to 3 teams, and each team comprises of 3 to 5 people, ideally 4. Okay, 4 is the sweet spot. And it can go to 5 if you don't have enough people, and go to 3 if you don't have enough people. That's another topic for the day, how you organize these things. We're just going to talk about what they're made up of. One team lead. He is the GL. He employs the orders of the squad lead and deploys his team as fit to accomplish the goal. He's the guy in charge. You listen to him first. If you have problems, bring it up to this guy, and then if it's not solved, go to the squad lead. Then you have a an automatic rifleman. He has the M249. We call him the AR, and his whole job is suppression. Right? We talked about suppression earlier with the M16. We'll come back to that in a second. But his whole job is to suppress the enemy. He's typically the second in charge of the team, but that can change. The third guy you have is the assistant automatic rifleman, and his job is to help the AR employ the M249. Sometimes the AR will have an M27 AR, or if you're like Russian or something, it'd be an RPK, nothing super big. But we can talk more about that in another class. And we make him like the pack mule, and he carries a bunch of stuff. And then the last guy, which is what you're learning about today, is the rifleman. All of these guys are riflemen, including the automatic rifleman. You don't have any special roles. So what you need to do is you do well when you're packed light, okay? So the point is you're often used as a runner. What the squad lead will say, or the team lead will say, hey, go check on this team, or go tell the squad lead this, or hey, go up on that hill and check something for me, or go back and check this body. So what you benefit from mostly is being light, right? So we often see in game where we see people with the huge backpacks and like 3 guns and everything. You don't need that. What you're wearing right now in game is pretty much what you want. Just gonna swap over into game. You can drop this down a little bit, drop in the smokes like we said, but this is pretty much what you want. You want to keep it short and simple. If you need to ask yourself, do you need this, right? Um, do you have any questions about the composition of the squad yet?
No
Okay.
questions about the composition, but would we drop the bayonet or keep the
No,
bayonet?
you can keep the bayonet. Don't worry about the bayonet.
Okay.
And just I forgot to mention it, but if you want to use the bayonet, you just take it and you drag it on your rifle like so. The Soviets have it in their pants for some reason. I don't know why. Americans have it on the Alice pack, but and I didn't say this, but middle mouse button is melee, and it melees without the bayonet as well. But anyway, going back to the illustration, this is typical. This is a standard rifle squad. This is what we play 99.9% of the time. This learn it, love it, live it. Um, so going back into the game real quick, we said being light is really important, and the most important part of that is bring what you need, right? And I talked about that with the big backpacks and everything. You got to ask yourself, do you need a sidearm, right? You see people all the time who bring a sidearm and they never use it. And an M9 or a 1911 with one magazine is the way to 330 round AR mags. Like, would you rather bring 9 bullets or 90? What sounds better to you?
I would say the extra magazines for my rifle.
There you go. That doesn't mean don't bring one, but I mean it means to factor all this in. Don't bring tons of extra crap when you don't need it. Don't bring NVGs when you go on a day patrol. Be mindful of what you have. So real quick, this game doesn't really have so much of an in-depth stamina system, but if you double tap control, you'll shoulder your rifle, and if you double tap it again, you'll lower it. And when you have your rifle shouldered, you eat up more stamina. When it's lowered, you use less. Whenever we're walking on patrol or something and we stop, take a knee, and your stamina will recharge quicker, and you're also less of a profile. It's just all around better. Okay, so the way that this works for especially as you as a rifleman is that we do a do as I do leading. So what that means is you just do what the team lead does. Just do what they do. Don't wander off. Okay? Don't hey, they're all going to one building. I'm gonna go turn around and go in a different building. Don't do that. Don't go hook around far right when no one tells you to or whatever. And especially if you do that stuff. Wait, what?
Stay with your team.
Yeah, stay with your team and stay within in talking range too, right? Remember we talked about how far you can talk. That doesn't mean go stretch it out as far as you can. But if you can't talk to them like in game chat like this, I'm talking right now by pressing T Tango, then you're too far. Go back to them. But if you do one of those things I said not to do, whatever you do, make sure you tell somebody you're doing it. Okay? Don't just run away. Come with me. We're going to learn something very important. Have I ever talked to you about bounding yet, Duck?
Uh,
Probably a little bit.
a little bit. I vaguely remember.
Okay, well
Bound.
you're gonna get the actual discussion now. Okay, so bounding is an instance where one element moves and another element covers. And this is one of the most fundamental elements or fundamental aspects of warfare since the rifle or any sort of firearm was invented. Two guys can do this, like you and me. Two teams can do this. Two squads can do this. Two platoons. You could have three platoons. They could all do this. Tanks can do it. You do it moving forward. You do it in retreating. It is the way that war is fought. Let's say we're approaching an objective, and it's just straight in front of us. Straight north. We're going to be heading north. I'm just trying to bring in what we talked about earlier. And I'll say, all right, we're going to bound. And since we have just you and me, we're not going to be going that far. And there's no cover or anything here. So what I need you to do is go forward just a little bit. We're not going to stress the distance too much. Just right there. So, and then you're going to plant. Okay, so come back and let me tell you what you did wrong already. And I didn't tell you this yet. So I said, all right, I'm covering, you go. And remember we talked about communicating?
Yes.
So what are you going to do?
Move up.
Yeah, you're going to say, and they have people who are really stressed, like you got to say this keyword and that. I don't care. No one cares. Just communicate. So just say moving or whatever, right? So I'm covering, go.
All right, moving. All right, covering.
All right, good. Moving. Covering, go.
Moving.
All right. And see, I just broke the rule, which I'm going to
Covering,
talk to you. But good. All right, come back. So what you want to do, make sure that's really important, is I'll show you what I did because I'm trying to teach you this, but I caught myself halfway. But when you're covering, you actually want to look and cover, right? Because if I'm over here looking at you, I'm not doing anything, right? So that's why it's equally important for you to tell me, right? So I don't have to turn around and make sure you're with me, right? But let's say we're in an open field like this, right? When we get bounding, I'm going forward. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to crouch. I'm going to want to get as low down because there's no cover, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's say that we're there's no real good area around here, but we'll just try and use these bushes and trees and shit. So let's do it right here. Can you see me?
Yes.
Going forward. I'm a go. You cover me. So moving.
All right.
And I know
Cover.
this isn't much cover or anything, but I'm gonna get right here. And what's important is I'm gonna turn around. And I'm gonna make sure that I don't go further than you can hear me and further than you can see me. It's really important. All right. Now I'm covering.
Moving.
And pass me up. I'll give you directions when you come and pass me up. Keep going. Go to the rocks. And what's important is
All right, covering.
all right, moving. You can because the guy in the back can't see what's in the front on your left. Stop covering. He won't be able to see everything, so you can give him directions while they're passing you up, right? So it just you work together like that. Do you have any questions about this?
No.
Okay, good. So like I said, you can do this in reverse. You do this with teams and everything. Ideally, you'd like to do this with teams or squads and not just two people. But in a dense environment like urban stuff, you'll have to do it with smaller elements. So we're almost done. Almost done. If you go back to the stream where I drew that stuff,
Okay.
we're going to talk about our three basic formations. There is a spot where the rifleman goes, and there's a fun little thing that they make all the Marines learn, and we used to learn it when we played 21st and everything. And you can see this. It's ready, team, fire, assist, and this is the order of the formations. You want to guess what ready is?
Rifleman.
There you go. You want to guess what team is?
Team leader.
You want to guess what fire is?
Automatic rifleman.
Can you guess what assistant is?
The assistant.
There you go.
The
And there's a reason for this, and it may not be apparent. I mean, I don't know why they picked some of these words. I don't know why ready is rifleman, not just rifle team fires. Doesn't matter. The idea is that you always want to have a battle buddy, and your team lead will assign these if it isn't already apparent. But who's going to be the AR's battle buddy?
The rifleman assistant.
The rifleman or the rifleman assistant?
The rifleman assistant.
The assistant automatic rifleman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So look, you see how that does that? So who's going to be the other guy? Who's going to be the other team? Little small battle buddies.
The rifleman will support the team lead.
There you go. And the way this works perfectly is that the rifleman is typically the newest guy and the team lead's the most experienced guy. So these two are together. These two are together. So if you're doing a bound, these guys are going to stop, and these guys are going to move forward. Does that make sense? See, you have teams of 2 bounding, right? But you also got to remember for the formations, you don't need to know why to get in these. You just need to know how to get into them, right? So the easiest way to remember this for a rifleman is the rifleman goes in the front because he's ready. He's the first one ready team fight. He's ready. He's the first one. So this is the rifleman. This is the rifleman. And these are lines, and we'll talk about them in a second. But this is a column. This is a wedge. I don't know if you see my cursor. And then this is
Yes.
a line. Do you know the difference between a line and a column? Like the easiest way to remember this?
No.
Okay. So a column is up and down like a column on a house. And a line is side to side. Easy?
Yeah.
You ever going to forget it?
No.
Okay, so I'll give you a trick to remembering how to set these up. Is that besides ready team, fire, assist, is that ready team, the 2 are together, and the 2 are together, right?
Yes.
And the way that this works for the line is the same way, but it could be either way. There's no real preference. It could be either side. It just depends on how you unfold from other formations and everything. So don't stress the line too much, but just know for the column, you'll want to get in the front for the rifleman and for the wedge. Now, this doesn't look like a wedge. Typically, you see a wedge like this. This is more of a diamond, but this is the way the Marines do it. And I honestly like this one more than this one. But the important part to take away from this is that the rifleman is in the front for you. And then it works clockwise, ready, team, fire, assist. The rifle's in the front. The team lead and the assistant AR can swap. As long as the AR is in the back, you're good. Okay? And that's the way to set up that formation. When you're in these formations, let's say we're in a column, walk forward like 10 feet, go in game.
Nope.
Just anywhere. And I'm behind you. You can stop. You can stop. You can stop. I don't want to be right on your ass, right? We want to keep a degree of spacing, so typically 10 meters. Something like that is better. And then you have the next guy 10 meters.
Within talking distance.
Yeah, as long as you're in talking range. And there's times when you'll tighten and spread it out, and we'll talk about that later. That's for your team lead and squad lead to know, though. All right, we have one last thing to talk about. There are 3 engagement reactions, right? The first one is, would you like to guess what they are? Think you can do it? We've talked about them all, but
spot them.
Okay, that's close. I'll give you that one. The first one is call target.
Call target.
Yeah. What are the other 2?
Into cover.
That's the second one.
And then weapons forward. I don't know.
What is weapons forward?
Guns on target.
I won't give you that one, but you're kind of in the right direction. That it's return fire. Because if I'm getting shot at, and if I'm just like, you're not really doing the job. Okay, so those are the 3, and it's important to understand what they are, but you don't have to actively think about them. But we still need to talk about them because they're not always done in the same order, right? So let's just say we're just walking along a footpath, and then we get ambushed, right? The first thing you want to do,
it's get into cover.
Yeah, because you're not going to know where you're getting shot from. You're not going to know which direction people are going to be in a razzle and a frazzle and shit. You just need to get yourself safe first, right? Don't try and stick it out in the open because you don't know what's going on. No one knows what's going on. What's the second thing you want to do?
Suppress or spot?
These 2 are kind of in tandem. It just really depends. But if you see them, if you actually see them, you want to call them out.
Fire back.
Well, you want to call them out, and then you want to, of course, you want to turn fire, but you want to make sure that everyone else knows what's happening, right? Because if you just start shooting back, which is important, I'll go to that in a second, then you're not really being effective with your suppression. You need to let everyone know where to shoot, because when you're getting to cover, ideally you'll be firing like just you'll have an idea like, hey, look, I'm getting shot from the right, and you just mag dump into the woods while you get into cover, right? But until then, you're of course going to be trying to figure out where they are and just start dumping fire into them and try and break their fire superiority. Say we're not in a big field, but we're walking and we see the enemy first, and they're a good distance away from us. What we could do first?
Call them out and
there you go. Cover. Yeah, there you go. So you're going to give a long, nice call out because you're not engaged, and you're going to make sure everyone knows, like, hey, look, this is the type of occasion where you could bring out the compass. Look, they're about bearing 40, 300 yards away, 4 infantry moving left to right, tree line. You give a nice call out, everyone will know where it's at. You're not going to say, hey, guys, front. And then you'll get to cover, and then if the team lead or squad lead desires to go shoot them, then you'll go engage them. different order. Same things, right? We briefly talked about suppression. This is something that everyone can do. The AR's job is just to suppress, and he can kill people if he sees them. But his whole job is suppression, and that's why our guns. That's the main reason why our guns go full auto is so that we can suppress because we can actually put down a large amount of fire at the enemy. So what is suppression? You want to tell me? Do you know?
Shooting at the enemy so they can't really do anything.
Yeah, go into it. So what happens when you're suppressed?
Can't really like peek out to fire at the enemy.
Okay,
I suppose.
so if someone is properly suppressed, they can't return fire because they'll risk being exposed. They can't run away or retreat because they'd be exposed again. They can't maneuver. They can't. Sometimes, if it's really bad, they can't talk. So, in other words, if an element is wholly suppressed, like adequately suppressed, they're just ineffective, right? And that's one of the main jobs of the AR with the M249 is to achieve fire superiority, is to get it and achieve it and hold it, right? Because no matter what, even though we could put down a lot of fire with the M16s and M4s, it's nothing compared to what the 249 can do. You can do a lot too. Like let's say we're talking about that instance where you're in the tree, walking through the trees, and you get ambushed. You may not know exactly where they're at, but you can start just throwing fire towards where you think they are, and then when you find out, then you call them out, and then you can accuratize that fire. Okay, so we're gonna end this here. Thank you for your service, Duck.
Alright.
You've now earned your rifle classification. I will update the roster. Good job. I don't think there's a loot button in this game, huh? That's all we got.